I want to thank Father Hernan Cuevas, your pastor, and his staff for the hospitality they have given to all of us to be here this evening as we seek God's comfort. For indeed, we come together this night to find comfort in a moment of shocking tragedy that has been visited in this otherwise peaceful town. Comfort comes in just being together and in the shared faith that God never abandons us. For the God who sent his only Son into the world to fully share in our life with all of the joys and hopes, all of our griefs and sorrows, is near us tonight. We grieve the loss of the 7 victims killed yesterday and pray for the full recovery, the speedy recovery of the more than 24 wounded and for the healing of all the survivors. We pray in thanksgiving for all the law enforcement and medical first responders and civil leaders who stepped up once again to serve and protect. Yesterday, citizens of Highland Park took pride in being Americans who just wanted to celebrate our nation's 246th birthday. Yet instead of families marching in a parade, parents were forced to cradle their children in their arms and flee violence in the streets. Instead of fireworks, rapid gunfire filled the air. Instead of a celebration of freedom and liberty, people were victimized by our nation's enslavement to guns. Instead of a day to celebrate peace and freedom, a weapon of war and terror ruled the day. There have been over 300 mass shootings in our country since the start of this year. Every year, nearly 120,000 people are shot. Over 40,000 of them die. 8,000 of those shot are children and teens, and nearly 2,000 of them die from gun violence in the United States of America. As we listen to these chilling statistics, this very bad news, we need to hear the good news of the gospel. Yesterday, at the very hour of the shooting, the gospel passage we just heard from the 9th chapter of Matthew was being proclaimed in many of our churches in Chicagoland. The gospel portrays Jesus bringing healing to an elderly woman and a young girl. It is striking how the healings come in such simple and uncomplicated ways. The touch of Jesus' cloak, the comforting word to the woman, the taking of the little girl's hand and lifting her up from her sickbed. These scenes remind us that God's grace most often comes in simple and very natural human actions. They tell the story of a young boy who heard that his neighbor lost his wife of 60 years. A few days after the funeral, the 5-year-old saw the old man sitting on his porch weeping. He went up to him and sat on his lap for more than an hour. Later, the boy's mother asked her son, "What did you say to him?" The boy simply answered, "Nothing. I just helped him cry." God's comforting grace comes in such simple gestures. We have no words to make sense of this senseless tragedy. We are here just to help each other cry, to lift up each other by the hand, to let each other's touch us with their suffering and their pain. But that simplicity should also move us to take action that also should be quite simple. We cannot allow the debate over securing society's safety through reasonable laws that govern the possession of firearms to be overly complicated. We should not make this so difficult. Whatever one makes of the right to bear arms, It should not paralyze us from enacting serious, broadly popular gun safety measures. The right to bear arms does not eclipse the right to life, or the right of all Americans to go about their lives free of the fear that they might be shredded by bullets from weapons of war at any moment. Gun violence is a life issue, and high-powered weapons have no place on our streets. God's grace comes to us this night in the simple gestures of drawing close to one another's pain and suffering, and lifting up each other by the hand, and from just sitting in silence to help each other cry. But this divine grace also urges us to put aside overthinking, overcomplicating the effort to move ahead with common sense responses, our common desire to keep each other safe. And so tonight, let our prayer be that of Pope Francis, who sent us a message of support this morning. This is what he said: with unwavering faith that the grace of God is able to convert even the hardest of hearts, making it possible to depart from evil and do good, every member of society must reject violence in all of its forms and respect life in all of its stages. Let this simple prayer open us to receive the grace of God that comes in simple ways, a grace that liberates us to have the courage to end this scourge of gun violence in our land, and a grace that reminds us this weekend that we live in the land of the free and the home of the brave.